Well, former Starbucks CEO and potential 2020 independent candidate Howard Schultz speaking on wealth inequality on Fox and Friends this morning ahead of his Fox News town hall. That's this Thursday. Take a listen.
I think the wealthy should be taxed more, to be honest with you.
Well, how much?
It doesn't matter how much. Most of the wealthy people in America recognize that if their taxes are increased, the question is, will the government be responsible about how that money is being spent?
But no matter who's in charge in the White House, will the government ever act responsibly with your money? What do you think?
Absolutely not. The government couldn't organize a drinking party in a brewery. These guys are terrible at what they do. Look, we have right now the biggest deficits in our history, and we have 3% GDP growth. And it's not a matter of just Republicans in charge. They're in charge right now, and they're spending more money than we bring in by far. But when the Democrats were in charge, they did the same thing. When the Republicans were in charge before them, they did the same thing. I don't have a problem with the wealthy tax, with paying more, but the problem I have with it is the motive behind it, because it's not to bring in more revenue, to pay for more defense, to pay for more social programs. It is a punishment against the wealthy is how it's being viewed, to stop oligarchy and to also help with the spread and distribution of wealth. That, to me, is a serious problem, but I do think it's coming because no one out there is going to defend the wealthy.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I think it actually does matter by how much more, where he was like, oh, it doesn't matter more. I think for a lot of people, they would be concerned just how much more. And then he also made that comment as well about corporate taxes should be higher. But I think really the real threat to his campaign, I know that Mayor Bloomberg is now reconsidering if former VP Joe Biden is not in the race. So I actually think among people who want sort of a centrist business person, I actually think Bloomberg has a little bit more gas in the tank than a candidacy from Howard Schultz.
This is unforgivable. I'm going to pull out some Milton Friedman here. Where are you going to find these angels to organize society for us? There is absolutely no way that the government is going to be responsible. And it's sort of a trick question, because in central planning, no group of people can be more efficient in terms of allocating resources than the free market and the invisible hand. So by definition, it's a trick question, and it's not going to happen.
It's not surprising Howard Schultz is trying to sound a little bit more like a Democrat on Fox and a little more like a Republican on MSNBC, because right now the Democrats, which he really has been, can't stand him. They're upset with him. So you too? I actually think he has some good ideas, but I do not want him run as an independent. I think if he wants to run, he should run as a Democrat, and I think he's kind of closed that door. But I don't have an issue with a progressive tax. The way he talks about just tax the wealthy, I think I would have expected more from him.
Yeah, I actually am with you, Carol. I mean, I do have a problem with the progressive tax. I'm for a flat tax, but it's this whole income inequality. I think it's a phony debate. If we measure wealth, by the way, by consumption, as some people say we would, we are all so much better off than we were. You don't have to worry about income. What does it matter if Howard Schultz has $1 billion or Jeff Bezos has $100 billion if I'm doing better? And that's the point in terms of consumption, in terms of comfort, in terms of access to information. We in the United States have never done better than we're doing now. So what does this income inequality matter at all?
Amen to you, David. That's 100% what you said. It's absolutely ridiculous. Income inequality isn't a problem. Poverty is a problem. We need policies to address poverty. Taking money away from Howard Schultz or anybody else does not address poverty, and that's the core of the issue.
There are two statistics, though, that I think are just at least worth examining, and whoever gets that top job, whoever becomes the next president, President Trump, even if he's in the second term, I mean, healthcare costs something like 125% more than it did in the 70s and 80s, and higher education costs something like 130%
because the government is in the middle of it. That's exactly why they're so. The same thing with college. Everything that government gets in the middle of becomes more expensive. So what are we going to do? Get the government in the middle of more things? Give them more money? We have to go in the opposite direction.
No, but I think
if we
when
want to
people
address
are
the
clamoring, and I think part of the appeal, especially to younger people, for more left-leaning policies is because they feel like they can't afford good health care and they can't afford a good education.
Because they don't,
I'm not saying higher taxation.
Right, and they don't understand the reason of it. They think that having free education is the solution, when having the government involved is actually what's created the fact that it's so expensive to begin with.
I feel like I'm just going back.
Robert's right in the middle of this debate.
I don't even know. John, help me out here.
Robert, this is a good analogy for me. Robert, this is a good analogy for me and you. There's a reason Aaron Judge makes more than the Bat Boy. That's something that we can understand.
Exactly. I think.
I hate to tell the socialists out there that, but there's a reason for that.
I actually would have thought Howard Schultz would have explained it a little differently. I think he could have said, listen, trickle-down economics hasn't been working. The middle class is hurting. And if we're going to change tax reform, it shouldn't be spent by the government. I think the way he did it was surprising to me. And I'm not sure if he's just...
It's a bit simplistic, actually.
But hold on a second. Income is going up. It's going up more than 3%. We have had a rise in income in the United States. You say the middle class is shrinking. I think the middle class has exposure to more than it has ever had. Again, I mentioned the information. I mean, you just look at your phone. You have more information at your fingertips, and this was not created by the government. This was created by the private sector, and the private sector has fulfilled its promise to give us new inventions and new access to comfort that we've never had before.
And the other thing that people don't realize is when they look at wages, things like benefits aren't factored into wages. Benefits are now actually 44% of all wage comp across the board. It used to be 15% back in the 70s. So people are doing better. The statistics need to catch up.
See, Robert, I'm a progressive. I believe in progress. This is progress. This is progress. I love it.